All right, welcome back, everyone. This is our last lecture for this semester. Today we have a special guest. So you have Ms. Salena Coachman. She's with Armstrong. If you've been in my class, you've heard about it. We're talking about Armstrong. But basically, the student intelligence you are part of that. More importantly, she is in talent acquisition, which is careers, jobs, and HR. And moreover, she has a very interesting career path herself and in creation before that we really don't know a lot of community before the organization. So I hope you have a lot of questions for her. I hope you take good notes away from this, and I hope you are able to connect with her because as a resource, I think I was speaking a very valuable connection when we need and we will go through. But I'll let her tell you more about herself. And like I said, we had a lot of questions. So,
good morning. How is everyone? Yeah. Right. And it's a Friday. And it's Friday before the holidays. The last day? Or do you have some days next week? Yeah, okay. All right. I was hoping it wasn't like last day before holidays. I was like, maybe everybody's already checked out on me, right? So thank you. Again. So I am Salena Coachman. I have a title of Vice President of Talent Sustainability and Talent Acquisition, as well as DEI at Armstrong World Industries here in Lancaster County, specifically Lancaster City. I'll tell you a little bit about Armstrong first and then some about me. And then we'll talk about the topic I really wanted to get to today, the curation, right? How to create a career of intention. And then we'll have some takeaways or conversation about this. And we can go back to some of the community items on my people pillar, which I'll explain in just a minute. So just a little bit about Armstrong World Industries. We are the leader in design and manufacturing in regards to ceiling and wall solutions. A lot of people don't realize this, but what you see in airports and hospitals, fancy restaurants, all of the woodwork and everything extends more than just these ceiling tiles, right? But we also keep hospitals healthy, classrooms insulated. A lot of it has to do with the acoustics in the room more so than it does the actual design of the ceiling. So we try to make sure that there's some good sound absorbance going on in the spaces where you actually work, live, heal, learn, and play. This is just some metrics on us year to date. I was asked if I wanted last year, if I wanted year to date. And I said, you know what, year to date is more of an impressive or rather than quarter. It just kind of shows where we are. We have about 3,100 employees. Half of those are salaried employees. The other half are our production employees that to me do the actual body of work, right? They make our product. They are working the production lines. They're working as engineers in those plants. They're working as mechanics in those plants and other fields of service. So, I'm grateful to be able to work in our headquarters campus, but I have a huge appreciation for our operation. We have 16 different operation facilities. As you can see, they are pretty much scattered out around the country. All right, so our purpose, as I mentioned, is to make positive differences in spaces where people live, work, learn, heal, and play. I'm also president of our foundation. It's a big tactic that we take as well towards seeing who would like to benefit within our communities. Where does it matter in regards to the ability to learn, heal, and play, and the marginalized persons, people that maybe underrepresented, and other categories that we can actually help in those communities. A little bit about our sustainability strategy. We have 3 pillars that guide this. Most companies actually use the 3-pillar format. I have the chore and privilege to have the people pillar, driving people and communities. So I'll probably have a little bit more knowledge on that. If you have any questions about our sustainability program after my brief speech with you today. We have healthy and circular products, healthy planet, and of course, thriving people and communities. There's a broader look at our KPIs. Of course, for the people, our KPIs include cultivating and maintaining an environment that promotes safe, healthy, and fulfilled employees, are developing an inclusive culture. Of course, we want diversity to be representative of all the, of the demographics of each location that we have. And we engage in communities where we operate to make them more vibrant places to live and work. More on this people pillar, of course, that's my passion. So part of me is yours is product and planet. I love those two, but I can tell you more about these. Big focuses for me right now in my work, especially here in 2023, has been improving on our DEI, not in the sense of the demographic of people, but what's available to people. How do we express ourselves? Do we have all of the mechanisms available for people to share their opinions and their voices? One way that we've done that is through employee resource groups. We've increased the body of employee resource groups we have at Armstrong World Industries. We started with AWARE, Armstrong Women Achieving Real Excellence, that began in 2020. And we've added GOLD, which is Black and Brown people, leading and doing great things. And we have AQUA, which is our Armstrong Queer United Alliance. They just began and they already have about 150 members, just starting at the beginning of October. And we have Emerge, which is branching our generations. So proud to know that we are using those tools, not just for the purpose of gathering people's voices, but also in our recruiting efforts. It's also great to know that you have some people to identify with when you come to a company versus, you know, hey, we just want to give you a check, right? What about once you're in? Once you're in the society of jobs or society of workforce, what now, right? What does it look like? How do you communicate with people that are now supposedly on your teams? A little bit about me. I'm the baby in this picture. I was born in 1974, just to age myself a bit with this food. I try to think that I'm a little hip and cool, but I was born in 1974. Yeah. One of three girls, very big family. I grew up in a place in Southeast Texas that's not very different from any town, to be honest. It's very similar to Elizabethtown. Beaumont, Texas is the name of it. I'm very proud to be from there, but I have to say that moving out of that, even though I went to a school, I did to the University of Houston, which was like 7 miles from Beaumont, it felt like I was a world away from Beaumont, Texas, right? It's like, oh, I'm in the city now, because in comparison, if you live outside of a large metroplex city, you are now in a different piece of the world. But before I actually went to college, there's something about being in a small town USA that makes you, that you have that burning thing, right? I don't know about any of you, but I've always had that thing in me that said, I have to do more, I have to be more, there's something else. It may not have necessarily been because I was from a small town, but there's just something innately inside, right? That there's something else to be had. I don't think I want to go to school here. I don't think I want to do this. I always wanted to do more. I originally thought I would be a local performance artist. So I went to the University of Texas at Arlington on a scholarship to sing. I still sing, but I don't do it at a professional level. Enjoyed it very much, but right away when you're in a larger school, you realize everyone that's in your class sings just as good or better than you. So you're no longer the small town hero, wonderful singer that's at everybody's bar mitzvah and holiday party and everything else. I sang at everything in Beaumont, right? So now I'm one of me. And I think that was quite intimidating as a young girl, right? So it wasn't the thing that made me change my major, but it definitely made me have my first reckoning of self. And I'm telling all of this, I'm correlating with the message that hopefully you'll take with you today. I did change my major. I had some physical elements along the way. I had to take a semester off, and then I went to the University of Houston. Changed it all together to English education. I thought I'd probably be teaching at an Elizabethtown College or something one day. I told my parents my senior year, okay, I'll finish, but I'm going to take a break. I need to be a flight attendant for 6 months while there, right? I was like, I'm going to do that for 6 months, and then I'm going to adult. So 6 months became 22 years in aviation. I didn't remain a flight attendant. I was only that for a small stint of time. luck would have it, or just funny how fate has life. I went into teaching flight attendants for about 8 years. That morphed into a lot of corporate training, crew resource management between pilots and flight attendants, and other training for the company. That then led me into operations management. So I then was at our different locations for 10 to 12 years or so, in that body of space, working as a person that lives in the basement. I don't know if you've ever been on or waiting for a flight, you have a delay, you're at the gate, and some person comes from nowhere, and all of a sudden everything is fixed. It's time to go. They're rushing you to load the aircraft. I was that person. Okay, I'd say I was the basement person in the airport, right? You live below the wing is what we call it, where you're just not visible to the public, but you're always thinking about the delays, you have to worry about the infrastructure that's happening behind the scenes, what's going on with the crew members, is everyone actually in their places, right? So that was me for a long time. Someone called me from corporate and said, hey, I'd really like to come visit you. I'm new in HR. I want to come and see what you're doing in this space. I hear a lot of things. Now, mind you, I've moved probably 5 times by now across the country doing this particular role. I became the person that would start up different locations. So I think I was pretty good in that space. And that worked for me. But the HR person called me. She said, hey, I just took on this vice president role at the company, running HR, and I really want to meet you. I think we need to have a conversation. So she comes and visits me. Her first name is Denise. She comes and visits me, and she's like, I really need you to work for me. You need to join my team. And I said, well, I haven't worked in this HR space. The most I have is, of course, all of the HR work I do at the operational level, helping our crew members, you know, with their employee relations issues or any other topic that they may have, whether it be unemployment or anything else, right? I did that at that level. She said, well, you know what, I can teach you where the lack is. We'll give you through some courses, we'll term all of this stuff, but I think you're talented. So then she says, but I don't have a role for you. You know, I can't, we're gonna pay you out of this budget because I don't have a job for you. Like, well, are you gonna invite me to come and you don't have a job for me? So I had to think about this for a little while, right? It's like you feel a yearning inside of you to take a next step, to take a jump, but there's not a position, right? It's like, what kind of things does that mean? But I took it because I think I was used to taking jumps. I was jumping all over the country, taking different roles. I was opening up new locations, and this is just another one, right? So I took that leap, and it was one of the best things I ever did, right? I went into that role, and probably within 6 months, the position was made for me. So then I became director of employee relations. I had engagement and culture. At that time, around 2015, 2016, people were not calling DEI work DEI. We were calling it engagement and culture, right? It's the same body of work. We're trying to get people together and try to work on representation, but we were not calling it out like we are now. Of course, we then had the incident of George Floyd and many others, as well as COVID, changes in our country and in our world that ended up changing the landscape of how we saw things, right? So now people are looking for leaders in a particular space. The airline that I work for is a regional airline that was owned by one of our majors. The major airlines had to fly in the U.S. more during COVID, as you can imagine, because they couldn't fly overseas. So that made a lot of consolidation happen in the regional space, or a lot of those companies went under. Mine went under. Working as a director of employee relations, that meant I was the person issuing the reduction in force letters for 3,100 people. Much like I met 3,100 people at Armstrong now, I was at a company with that body of people, but I had been there almost 23 years at the time, and I knew almost every person at that company. So just to put you in the framework of 2020 and what that looked like in the workspace for me now, I'm doing all the reduction in force letters. There's a lot of labor relation groups, you know, so I had to do union letters, the whole 9, right? We have a whole team, but I say I because I was leading the charge for the group. This puts you in a different mindset when you're having to do this and you're giving a bonus or even asked to stay longer while you're reducing other people's jobs away, right? So finally I said, I gotta find a job, I'm in a space now where I'm going to have to pivot. I'm gonna have to think about what my next looks like. I was in a position where another airline was asking me to come and work for them. And someone told me about this position at Armstrong. So I started the interview process with both. Fortunately, both wanted me to go through the process. I'm in the interview process now. Now I'm at the week where I'm at the interview process with their leadership. I had to bow out finally of one. I said, which one do I prefer? Where do I see myself, right? Comfortable would have been the additional aviation job, right? That's a comfortable place. I've been in it for 23 years. Why not, right? And then I'm talking on the phone with these people at Armstrong, very unfamiliar space, manufacturing, never touched it, didn't know anything about it. Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I'm looking it up. Looks like a lovely town, right? But then I look at the demographics, I'm like, there's probably not to be anyone or very few people that look like me, And there was this much fear, honestly, about that. Just by character, like, who Salena is, I don't walk with too much fear. So there was this much fear. But then I saw little things about Lancaster, about its growth and how this was a place where people cared. And I looked at the rich heritage of the Amish, Mennonites, other faiths and persons that lived here. And I thought about the traditions of those people. And I said, there's probably a lot of kindness in this area. Although this may be what people are stereotyping, because I did hear a lot of things from people when I said, oh, I think I may be looking at a job in Lancaster. They're like, ooh, yeah, I don't know if you want to go there, but then I thought about this, and I thought about the nature of just by definition of some of the people that I know through here. And I said, I think this might work for me. What sold me though was the people that I was going to work with. That's what sold me. As I was interviewing, the more I talked to them, I said, this feels like the culture I'm leaving. This feels like the people I love. And I needed that feeling at that point in my life, right? I needed to still feel that tangible connection with other humans. Now, mind you, we're in October in 2020. So this is a place where none of us were getting tangible connection with others, right? And I said, I have to have this. I have to feel like I know them and I can trust them. And the more I was interviewing with them via Teams, the more I said, this might work out. I'm 3 years in this month, and it's been working out pretty well, right? And now I feel like I'm creating that same space for other people. Particularly, I'm trying to make sure that I create that space for people who may not have that space otherwise, that either look like me, they may be in communities where they're marginalized, and I want them to feel Armstrong, Lancaster County is a place where they can thrive and feel comfortable. So that's about me. Here we are on trying to connect all of that with what I'd like to chat about with you today. Building a career you love, doing something that's intentional. I know this is something that while you're in college, people talk about a lot. It's like, don't just take a job. Don't just take a job for the money and blah, blah, blah. Well, look, money is something that you use as a tool to help you live your best life. I want you all living your best life, right? It's a tool. Right? But you can find that tool through your gifts and talents too. You have your natural aptitude or skills, that's your talents, right? That's the thing you bring to the table, as I like to say. And then there's the goals, whether it's business goals or personal goals. Those are the things, of course, that you have predetermined as targets that's going to help you have achievement, right? In a certain period of time or over your lifetime, whatever that looks like. When you're building a career you love, that's adding those two together, right? Those talents are now at its highest and best use, and you develop an opportunity. Your development opportunities are available, and goals are established. So things are flowing, as I like to say. If I ever need to slow down, because I can talk pretty fast, please let me know. I find it pretty cool about this. So these are the 3 points I want to drive home today. We're going to get clarity, gain alignment, and act, because your career doesn't just happen by accident. It's something you have to be very, very intentional about. Okay? So what do you want? What do you want out of the deal? what does it look like at the end of the day for you? I'm sorry, I'm going to put this in. Yeah, we're good in my lecture mode. So sorry for the interruption. I have some really good notes and I want to make some notes. Yeah, and so that's why. I want that to yeah. It happened really fast. Yeah. You go backward. No. The main time. No worries. I should have mentioned it before. I was like, oh wait, I have some really good points I wanted to bring up. There we go. I'm here to talk all sorry. One person gets you do, that's all that matters. Okay. So I guess when you think about your clarity, right? What do you want out of the deal? What do you want for your life? Clarity is everything. You can't create a meaningful career if you don't know what you want. Clarity is about the focus of the wants, though, right? How much are you focusing on this? Without clarity, you'll forever spin your professional wheels, unable to articulate your goals, wondering aimlessly. You're gonna do that anyway. It's gonna happen, right? You're gonna come. There's gonna be a period in your life or your career where your wheels are spinning, and you're like, I thought I had the clarity thing, right? Well, maybe it's one of those periods of life that you are naturally pivoting. You know, sometimes there's an evolution of things because you maybe have reached a plateau in a certain place or something. But the whole point is saying, how do I always gain clarity in my direction? That direction can surely change, and don't penalize yourself when you feel that whole disjointment with a certain place in your life. This could just be a natural sense of this could be accomplishment. This is the period where this is supposed to turn the dial, right? I like to use that get clarity piece with also find out who's in charge is my first thing in life. I always say, whether it's me, when I'm thinking of my own career, I'm in charge of that, right? I am the president and CEO of that situation. So how do I want that to change? If it's a particular job, am I actually doing the mission that I was called to do for that particular place? Am I aligned with that? Sometimes that will give you clarity to kind of realign yourself with the position. And once again, if you're wishy-washy all the time, and I use that word wishy-washy on purpose, it's not going to help you with any type of clarity. If you're always like, maybe I should do this, if you live in the maybe zones, not a lot of that. You know, so that clarity just says, I know this is my final goal, it's my inline what I want. So this is what I want. What is it going to take for me to get there? And don't be ashamed of the pivot times in life because they're going to come. Just go ahead and say, I still have clarity. It's just time to pivot from this thing to the next. In alignment, being clear on what you want isn't enough. You also have to align on your goals with a plan to achieve them and stay away from things that will derail you. Because of course, as we all know, the derailment train is also coming towards us, right? It's right here. Without awareness, you're doomed to a passive career that happens to you. It can happen at someone else's hands in the blink of an eye, right? Versus you having control of that and being the person that's navigating your own ship. Worse, you may be unconsciously repeating what you've already done, wondering why you don't see results. Alignment is about intentionally supporting your goals through your actions, your thoughts, and your environment. This is very important. This starts with understanding how you spend your time and whom you want to invest in. Spending time sometimes with people that are not aligned with your own clarity or your direction oftentimes lead you to that place of wonderment and derailment. Versus you want to stick around people that are doing the things and motivated by the things that's in the direction of life you want to go in. Because guess what? You're going to find yourself there. It's like we're all headed there, right? If I'm going with a whole another crowd that's not even interested in my bottom line, or even talking about the things or having a conversation about the things that are motivating me, it's just going to derail me with, I'm speaking to you guys, right? It ends up a no-win street. It's not saying I'm going to devour and disown these people, but I have a different direction. So I want to flock with the birds that are going in the direction that I'm flying. You know, sometimes this can get disappointing to people that have a lot of self-doubt, or sometimes just innately it's something that's in your environment. And if you stick with people that help to motivate and lift up that thing you're trying to achieve, it will boost your confidence too. It will help you grow as an individual versus the ones that, no, that's not going to work out. You know, nothing's going to work out. You're always thinking negative. Seriously, you know, get on the train with the people that are driving the way that you're going. And of course, act, do it. You know, we can make plans all the time, you know, but if the best laid plans without action is dead. It doesn't go anywhere. So knowing what you want and having a plan to achieve it is one thing. Doing it is just another. The key to building a career with intention is to hold yourself accountable and to take action. Unfortunately, this is where many of us as professionals, we stumble and we stall. We don't rationalize our behaviors by telling ourselves it isn't the right time, and that maybe we'll do it later in life. But guess what? Later never comes. It never comes, you know. If you put it off and you put it off, like I probably said I was going to go back and do that later in music. Yeah, that later never came, you know, and not that I can't do it now, right? But I have other priorities that I've created. I've reinvented myself, I've pivoted and all the things. So that later for that particular thing that I thought I had clarity on, it never came. Procrastination is rooted in fear. Remember that, okay? That is a place that failure and success, but not being perfect, a fear of power and emotions. That is the place that procrastination is rooted in. We feel anxiety when we're pushed to do things that make us uncomfortable. So naturally, we try to avoid them. But the things that make you uncomfortable sometimes are also the things that are going to make you grow. So sometimes it's a little good to live in that uncomfortable feeling, you know, so that you can feel yourself saying, when I come out of this, though, the moment that I come out of this uncomfortable space is going to be a space of growth and to be able to document and see where that growth happened, right? Here's the hard truth. Good intention means nothing if there's not backed up by execution. So once again, all good laid plans that are not actually executed, it just dies on vine. Action is the antidote to fear, stagnation, and passivity. And the funny thing about action is that it begets more action. Once you start, you build momentum and are more inclined to keep going. Taking action is empowering and it's contagious, fueling continued growth. So the more you do it, guess what? The more you want it. The more people around you that see that you're doing these great things, they want a piece of it. And they want to see how they can help sometimes too. It's like, what's going to keep Salena from telling? And I have so many people that now not just are behind the wings, but they're flying next to me, right? We're in a place of life, and it doesn't come with age. It comes actually by flying with the red clock, right? It's saying, what direction are we going, and let's do it all in abundance. Let's do it together so that we can make more happen. If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. And by being intentional, getting clarity, seeking alignment, and taking action, you're going to create that career you love. Because guess what? It's not just about that career. It's about creating a life that you're in love with, right? And I could go way into that, but I don't have the time. But if it flows with everything else you're doing, you're going to have a comfort in that. You know, there's a space that you can live in your life that you say, this is my niche. You know, I'm doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. Having the ownership of our people pillar at Armstrong is one thing, right? But knowing that that's who I am on the inside, it helps me in two ways, right? It helps me fulfill the job that I was designed to do, but it also helps me fulfill the purpose I feel I was placed on the planet to do also. And a big piece of that is community, and being a big piece of that being a bridge connector with people. That's something else that I love to do. And standing up for what's right. So I love the DEIB work more than anything, because I believe standing up for others is something I was called here to do. So some practical steps: complete a professional degree, finish our certificates. I also say to our skilled workers, finish your skilled working, right? You're into a trade. I work in talent acquisition, so now I'm definitely at the point where I appreciate all talents for certain and what they bring to the table. You are coming into the workforce at a fantastic time, because it is a market made for you, right? It is not made for me, the employer. It is made for you, the employee, the candidate. It's in your hands. Go for the job that means something for you. Curate that career that is meaningful for your life, and be able to explain that when you're in front of someone, right? Say, I know that I haven't worked this particular job, if you haven't, but this is where I see myself. And you'll know where you can be developed. Talk about that. Say, I see myself at this company. These are the things I think I can do. I would like to grow into blah, 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 right? You may not be there yet, but if you can define where you see yourself, it will go a long way, trust me. Learn from others. If you have a mentor or a sponsor, make sure that you follow the path with that person or stay in touch with them, or ask someone to be a mentor or a sponsor for you. Have no shame in that. If you see someone going in a direction that you want to fly, 9 times out of 10, they can help you get there. So just reach out to them. Don't be embarrassed. Ask for feedback. I believe in having a personal governance board. Like I said, I'm the president and CEO of Salena Coachman, but it takes other people telling me hard truths oftentimes for me to make sure that I'm staying on the right path. So that board of governance, it should be just friends of mine and family members of mine. It's like, girl, yeah, you're right. Yes, that looks great on you. And you look a hot mess in reality. Yeah. No, I don't want that person. I want them on my days that I probably feel like, yes, I need a boost. But I need the truth teller too that's going to say, yeah, that's a bad news. Be careful, you know, or you are this person and you're actually going in the direction of something else. I need those different perspectives. Someone that knows more than me, someone that either by education they have more or by experience they have more. I want that person on my personal governance board. Apply for positions that have pathway opportunities. So once again, just don't always look at a job description and say, I'm not there yet. Think about the potential of where you can go with that job and be able to explain that when you're sitting at an interview table. Now, I'm not saying go and apply for a president and CEO job today, okay? If you are currently working at Taco Bell, just no pun intended, anywhere in between, but think about where you want to go next. But if you want to apply for that manager position at Taco Bell, if you're working there now, yes, I certainly say that. See, with the path, that's probably a perfect pathway, right? But just using that as just in case, but think about different ways, not just linear from employee to supervisor to manager, but how can I spread out in company? Maybe I want to go in a different direction. Maybe I started in human resources, but I want to dab my feet in technology. You know, this is AI is very important to all of us. Maybe I want to put my feet in that. Figure out what the pathways are at that particular company. Network, not just among those persons that you feel are your flock, but make sure that you're networking overall. Take those opportunities. I know that Elizabethtown College has a lot of opportunities for you all to network. Lancaster has a lot of opportunities for you all to network. I see things all the time from the chamber and other sources for you to be able to network with others. Communicate your goals or learn how to. Write that down over and over again. Make sure you have clarity. I'll go back to that, right? What are my goals? What do I want to get out of not just life, but what do I want to take out of it for myself? Every experience you have, hopefully is something that's going to lead you to a greater end. And work well with others, right? Collaborate. Be able to give, be able to, I love the book Give and Take. I don't know if you've seen that before. Learn how to do both. Don't just have transactional relationships in life, but when you're a giver, I heard this a long time ago. When you're walking around with your hands open versus closed, you can give and take, right? There's so much life out here for us that we have opportunity to give our talents and receive from others and receive knowledge too. So be open to that. Be open to collaborations. It's going to get you a long way. Take you a long way. Do you have any questions for me? I'll come out on this side. If you don't, that's fine too. I'll just stay here. I hope this was a little helpful. Yeah. Good. I didn't hear that. Sorry. Oh, yes.
So you mentioned how you said up there for adults and work for a while. Do you verify vibration here for patients, or do you feel like you didn't?
Yeah, so I never regretted it. I think it gave me a lot of imposter syndrome in life that I could have avoided. You know, sometimes I think pivoting in a direction that's not very common, and then you're in a position where you're having to explain yourself sometimes, it can feel intimidating, but I can't say I regret it. I think what I've gained from that is a lot of hard work. You know, I remember sitting on airplanes saying, what in the world am I doing, right? You know, there is a view of a person in that profession that maybe, oh my goodness, they get to travel everywhere, they all over the world, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard work and a lot of service and a lot of humbling yourself, because you are doing more than just serving drinks and all of that. You're thinking constantly about the welfare of all these people on this airplane, right? Because the training that they receive is not how to serve a Coke. It's basically how to be a nurse in the air. And so then teaching that for many years gave me a better appreciation for their work. And then further, as I've matriculated through my career, the work of people who work frontline.
I have a question. No, these fine people sitting here, many of them can speak for me, but many of them are like they're in a different place.
Yeah.
And we tell them about that work about this. And again, common mindset. They're just trying to do about it. That's this have lots of story. What do you think they should be doing now? What do we be telling them so people see there? So
Yeah, I thought about that question before coming, because I said, oh, I could talk about our people pillar and I could break down community and all this great fun stuff Salena's doing. I said, they don't need to get that. I'm like, if I am in this age bracket all over again, what would I need to hear? I'd like to hear. What would I need to hear? And it's exactly that. It's like, curate your own life, and now is the time to do it. Really, it's really to be thoughtful about every single step, you know. And I mean that when I say you have the driver's seat when it comes to where you want to work. So really think about your life plan. It's not a sermon-y type of get it together right now type of thing, but just kind of put some clarity to, am I really on the right road? And if not, what is this paper I'm going to get from this institution going to help me with in the long run? How is every piece and every tool in my life going to help me with that bottom line that I want to achieve? And if it's money, you guys, the best way to gain that is through your own skills and talents and what you bring to the table. So bring your authentic self and everything that goes with that. And I'm telling you, the other stuff is gonna make room for you. I hope that.
How do they connect? So, look, this is the main chapter, one of the biggest employers of the county, with jobs and training. You folks will appear without a whole lot of questions. Again, I'm in a different place from thinking about what I was sitting.
Yeah,
Who do I need to connect to? How do I grow my network? But network is fine.
yeah.
How to make it easier to solve it. Successful professional, again, perhaps.
Yeah, a few ways. Anytime you see anything in your local area to connect, maybe networking can be intimidating, right? That word can sound like work, right? Like I have to come with something. I have to have some cards and I got to exchange numbers with 10 people and all of that. Not necessarily. Networking sometimes can be even when you're in a setting where you're at a coffee shop or you're in a lunchroom or something, sitting near someone that you don't know versus always gravitating to the people that you do. Sometimes that's networking, right? That's the simplest form. I have made that a habit of mine because oftentimes I go in rooms and I know I will know a lot of people. So like, who do I not know? You know, and it's not just for me, but that's part of that give and take relationship too, right? I'm like, what can I give today? So sometimes it's a matter of me doing that because I want someone to feel special. And I just pay attention to a person that ironically oftentimes ends up being someone I needed to meet anyway, you know, either for their career because of the space that I live in and work in, or for mine, and it was becoming something that was enlightening for me. Or just simply being present, you know, be present in your classes. Think about maybe sitting near someone else, you know, asking someone their name. I mean, deciding to not give a whatever you want to fill the blank with on what perceptions are going to be and making that connection, speaking to that person, doing that thing, you know. But we care too much. I think it's the world that we're living in now. We care too much about perception of others versus what's going to be my bottom line. So knock down that barrier because it really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the perceptions are.
In the beginning, you mentioned how you were you are posted on the foundation. Could you speak more on that and how you manage this?
Yeah, so within Armstrong World Industries, we have Armstrong World Industries Foundation. And we have a budget that's an endowment from the company that we want to use over many, many years, very strategically. One thing that we do, and I'll talk about the foundation first, and then I'll get to that second part of the question. One thing that we do is we try to make sure that spaces in our communities, not just Lancaster, but the locations where we have production places, we have site locations, that we are serving a need in those spaces. So let's say, for instance, the Boys and Girls Club in Ohio that our plant volunteers at every single year, we try to dig a little deeper and see if there's a capital campaign going on there, a certain need that we see that they have a renovation project going on. And we may reach out and say, we want to be a part of this because we know you're serving children, you're doing something great for the community. Here in Lancaster in particular, I don't know if you all have seen the Big magazine that is in this area, but oftentimes you may see some of our work in there. This month in particular, we put a foundation highlight. The Lancaster Library, we were a big part of that redesign downtown of Lancaster City. We have a big fund that went to CASA. I'm sorry, not CASA, SACA, which is Spanish Association, I think it's Spanish Association, it's something else, anyhow. Yes, you did have a speaker to come here last year. But they actually have 2 tech colleges. And of course, as I mentioned before, that we need a lot of skilled laborers in our work, as well as all of the HR professionals, engineers, finance people that we need from Easttown. We also need skilled laborers, and they help us in that space of time. And they have just decided on having a new location in Lancaster County, and we wanted to make sure that that thrives. So we gave one of our grants to SACA, and Schreiber Hospital was a big place that we donated to this past year, and the like. So you'll see a lot of places that either serve children, our marginalized communities, the homeless. We try to make sure that we are keeping those buildings up and safe for the people that dwell in them. And how do I like managing that type of thing? Or what do I do? That is the pleasure of the job, right? The talent acquisition, recruiting, and all that stuff, that's the more heavy lifting piece of my work. But anything that has to do with community and giving, that's the pleasure work that I get to do. So I'm so grateful that I get to serve in those capacities.
So you said you're in like a management position currently. As a like 18-year-old like student and somebody who aspires to be a management position, what like types of skills should I be working on now in order to set myself up to succeed in the future?
Yeah, that's a great one. I like to think that I'm a servant leader. That's not everyone's leadership style, but so I would say know your leadership style. That's part of that clarity piece. And you'll know that just by interacting with other humans, not even from a management standpoint, right? We begin to say, this is who I am, right? I like things to be more arm's length, or I like people close to me, or I like to guide without my hands touching them. I like to observe as a leader. You'll be able to notice things about yourself. I think that's the biggest piece for you to take away today at 18 is to say, what kind of person am I? To know what type of manager I will be. I have no doubt that you can make it to be a manager. Just what type will you be, and how do you hone in on being the best version of that? Yeah.
Would you recommend taking a break like what you did for like 6 months? I would say become a senior, and instead of like getting right into the workforce, would you say take a break?
Oh, don't get me in trouble with your professor in here. I say, if the clarity is speaking to you for a break, what does that break look like, right? Because mind you, in my break, I still had to work. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had to work. I just didn't go into a field of work I thought I would go into, right? And ironically, it led me to the right path. That thing that's in your mind saying, I'm pushing to do this, you know? And I'll tell you all a funny story. It's not like I was like, oh, I have to be a flight attendant. I wanted to be one. I think an advertisement came on TV at that time or something. But I also had a boyfriend I was trying to get away from. He was super nice, just being real. He was super nice, and I didn't know how to break up with him. And I said, the only way I can do this is if I leave. I have to leave Houston. And I became a flight attendant, and it was perfect. I said, I can dodge it, right? I can dodge the breakup because I can leave Houston. And that kind of led to that being a double motivator. And so I had to tell him, I was like, hey, look, I'm not gonna be around, you know. So I mean, I want you to walk away thinking I've always been as outspoken as I am now. I was a little, embarrassed and didn't know how to get out of a relationship, really. And that was like a part two of both that desire of wanting to pivot for a moment. So yes, in hindsight, it was a great decision for me to make another choice. And like I said, I ended up teaching for years within a company, and that was fun. And it gave me another realization point of myself of saying, it's funny how who you were supposed to be is going to manifest no matter what. So I still ended up teaching for a long time. So. So don't go and fly away just to get away from it. But, yeah.
What are some skills that you used to be work on? Skills that you used to be in the application environment that helps you do?
That's a good question. I believe truth telling is always good, transparency. Right. When I'm sitting in front of someone and they're interviewing and you say, if you were to make this job, and this is the question I like, you would make this job whatever you like, you know, and you're bringing all of you to the table. Because that's a kind of a key to let them start thinking, who am I and what do I want to bring to this versus the Q&A piece that happens in an interview that's so ritualistic, right? I love when people give thought to that and they begin to express their true self, whatever that is, right? Like I am naturally funny or I'm quirky. They begin to speak those truths. I'm like, ooh, I like them. This is jazzing with me, right? And that may work a little bit in my biases, which I have to control, right? That someone can sit there and authentically speak about themselves. But on the flip side, I also enjoy when it catches them off guard. And people typically are not asked that in an interview and they have to sit and think about it. Like, what would I bring to this, right? So I think the biggest attribute that you want to bring your soft skill is that authenticity for one, and having a glimpse that a person says, this job is for me, right? This place is for me. Identifying that when you are meeting them. You begin to see in other little, notations that they're kind or other things that may happen, or that they're articulate or they speak well in English. But it's that eye contact, I'm being authentic, I'm really trying to be in this. And when they're caught off guard with an answer, they think about it for a moment and they can come back with their real self versus the scripted me, right? We all have the scripted me for an interview. Turn that off, and enjoy being you. And here's the other piece of this, if I could give you anything. Like I said, you have the ball is in your court as far as an applicant. So be your authentic self. Don't take a job for the money only. Okay? Take a job because you feel like you're going to be among people that you're going to enjoy. Because you're going to spend the majority of your time at that place versus home. So you want to like them.
All right, well, anything?
That was fun.